Hello and welcome back to Third Age Total War Divide and Conquer, and welcome back to the many tips and tricks videos for the many factions of DaC that have either recently or are not likely to receive any updates in patch 2.3, which I still have no idea when it's going to be coming out. So now we're looking at the faction, the principality to the kingdom, Dol Amroth, and I must admit they are weak but strong at the same time, and we'll go over why this is very important and prevalent for how to play Dol Amroth. So the one thing to note about Dol Amroth, unlike any other nation, a large amount of your units can only be made in your heartland regions, and what that means is the regions Dol Amroth, Ethelland, which I have recently claimed and just gone through the turn to try and claim it to show that it is actually a homeland region, to show what it actually has. Methrast and Linhir, not including Golbol-Tofalas, and I do believe they no longer included Tarnost in the selection, although back in the olden days of DaC, Tarnost was also a region requirement for Dol Amroth, because as I mentioned in the Gondor video, in Tarnost you can create several unique Dol Amrothian units for the Gondor faction. So Tarnost used to be important to the Dol Amroth faction. Now I don't think it's important at all. I think it's just a small fortress where Gondor can get a bit of Dol Amrothian theme into their campaign. So what do you start with is Dol Amroth. You start with Dol Amroth, Methrast, Linhir and Golbol-Tofalas, not including Ethelland. Again, I just claimed it recently just to show that it is your main region to take, and because it's a bit of a wild card actually. Because for those who don't know much about this, the region of the city of Ethelland, it was once a region held by the elves, and then at the time of the first king of Dol Amroth, which at the time was under the elves, had married it was Amroth. Amroth the elf had married, I can't remember her name, Nimrodel. And he ventured into the seas to try and find her, even though she was lost somewhere around here, somewhere in the White Mountains, as they travelled from Lorien down to Dol Amroth. So that's just a little bit of lore for you. Amroth, originally the lord or the king of Lorien, left after many Sylvan or Sindar elves started wandering into the Golden Woods, and later on, after his long departure, the lady and lord of the Galafrin, or of Caras Galadhon, became Galadriel and Celeborn, for those of you that know much about the current affairs at this time in the Third Age. So what do you start with? In this fort you start with Misthem, a ranger unit, your Nimrodel Rangers. Unlike most rangers, he can hide anywhere, and the rest of his stats we'll talk about in the actual thing. Again, he's a unique general. And so, if I'm correct, is Baragon. Baragon is a new general that's been added into the roster of starting generals, because originally Golbol-Tofalas was not part of Dol Amroth. It was actually a part of the old Corsairs of Umbar faction. But since they've been remade into the Aor they no longer have control over Tofalas, and they gave it over to Dol Amroth. And if I'm correct, Baragon also starts with... his bodyguard was changed to the Seaward Spearmen. This is another unit, again, we'll talk about, but this is a unit that is actually your best AOR unit, and AOR means area of recruitment. So that's one of your best units that you can make anywhere on the map. But compared to some of the best units that Gondor can make anywhere on the map, these seem very similar to just the Gondor Spearmen. You may think, is that really fair? Dol Amroth having most of their units trapped in these regions? Well, you'll find it is very, very fair, because if they were allowed to make all of their elite units outside of Dol Amroth, outside of their homeland, they would be probably the most powerful factions in the game. They've been made so restricted to their homeland, and it's so sacred to them, that if you lose one of those regions, it is so difficult to come back. It really is. But yes, in Dol Amroth, you start with your Prince Adrihil and 2 units of full Amrothian pikemen, not 73 and 77. They were just some of the casualties of trying to take Ethelland. And as you can see immediately from Dol Amroth, you have a large roster of units all available. A nice plethora of cavalry, some nice melee options, a good few archers, a pike unit. You also notice some of these names. Gondor Militia. Where have we heard that before? I wonder where we've heard that name before. Yes, many of the units, well actually no, only 3 of the units of Gondor are also shown in Dol Amroth. The Gondor Militia, the Archer Militia, and the Gondor Cavalry Militia. They're just slightly repainted, redone, no stat changes, they're just exactly the same. Maybe cost a bit more, I don't know, I'm not really going to be one to judge what they did with the militia. But yeah, you can make Gondor Militia, Archer Militia, and Gondor Cavalry Militia from all of your starting tier buildings, not from the meeting halls. You can only get them from the garrison quarters, the stables, and the practice range. But another thing to note, Dol Amroth's buildings are exactly the same. Exactly the same, except for one thing. I forgot to mention this thing, the Military Academy. I did mention this a small bit in the Gondor the Gondor overview. However, of course, for those of you that did watch the overview, the game crashed halfway through, and this is what the Military Academy actually looks like. And it says experience bonus to troops trained here +2. And if we find the upgraded version of the where is it? It won't be found on here, will it? Education, entertainment, town hall. I'm just going to keep searching through and just pretend you guys still care. Smiths. Nope, it's not. Okay, so let's go to Effeland. Military Academy, that's it. So you can get the Royal Officers Academy, which gets a total experience bonus for troops trained to be +3. But another thing to just note, you can't build these in cities. They can only be built in castles, and that's exactly the same as in Gondor. Originally, you could build them anywhere and everywhere, but they thought that was a bit busted, seeing that it was a small building, and yes, it was a bit expensive, yes, it had a large construction time, but there's a good reason for it. That is a free military, that's a free guild for the get-go for Gondor and Dol Amroth, where the Mordor faction, or any Orc nation, they require a tier 2 guild, which they have to wait for before they can get that upgrade. And then they need to get the tier 3 building, which only one faction can have, and Dol Amroth and Gondor get it in every single castle they have. You start to think, is that a bit busted? And then they made the decision to stick it only to castles, it would seem. So yes. Also, another thing to note, you have even though you have very few regions, have one of the largest population rates in the early game, because Gondor is a very populated region of the world, very much like Gondor. Of course, you're massively underclassed from Gondor when it comes to population, because you have very few regions. But starting with a region that with 2,860 people, that's a basic town, and then Dol Amroth having 5,000 from turn 2, and then a region like Fenas Druinin for the Northern Dunedain having about 50. No, not 50, about 160. That is a massive population difference. So we will have an easy time with money, which is another thing I forgot to mention, because the more population you have, the more trade you'll have, the bigger the roads you have, and you start with big roads. You start with big dick roads everywhere. You got them in Lynn here, you've got bigger roads in Methrast, you've got paved roads in Dol Amroth as well. You start with very big roads, and you can upgrade them further, because like I said with the Ardenheim and the Gondor video, you can get the great roads. So let's just quickly go through their building roster while I'm still trying to get everything out about them. So the stables, the only difference compared to Gondor is they actually don't just have a tier 1 building, they have 2 extra tiers. So this is going through a region that is in their homeland, so you will see most of their roster here. So the base stables, you get the Gondor Cavalry Militia and your Amrothian Squires, which are, again, the Amrothian Squires are another unit which we saw in Tarnost, and again, is not an Aor unit. Your first 2 tier the stables, but these 2 units are not Aor. But then we come to the Knight stables, where you get the Seaward Lancers. Again, surprisingly, not Aor. So you start with pretty standard, pretty good cavalry, and then you get to tier 3, and then you get the Knights of the Silver Swan. one of the best cavalry units in the game, and we'll go into more about that when we get there. But another cavalry unit I completely forgot about that can only be made in Etheland, the White Knights of Etheland. Originally, these were known as the White Knights and were another non-restricted unit, cavalry unit, where the Doran Ernal Lancers, which are now called the Seaward Cavalry, were AOR. The White Knights of Etheland requires Etheland, but they are archer cavalry. Archer cavalry! In a Gondor nation with immense heavy armour and really good stats. That's pretty good. Can't lie, that's pretty good, and that's why it's so restricted. You'll find every unit, every best unit that Gondor has, or Dol Amroth has, is AOR restricted. Because they're just too powerful otherwise. And they're not like Gondor, or they're not like Arnor, where they can make, where they're not having all their elites restricted because they have a small roster. They have Arnor has a massive roster because of all the Beacon of Hope system units. Dol Amroth has one of the smallest rosters without its AOR units. But another thing to note is you can also get all the fiefdom units similar to how Gondor can. And if you were to claim any of Gondor's regions that could make fiefdom units, such as Fanwilond or the Sarnak, you can make those fiefdom units too. You are similarly like Gondor. You are the same nation. You're still got Numenorean blood pumping through your veins. And the men of Gondor here, even if it feels like they don't trust you, they will fight for you to the death. So believe it, they are yours to command. But other than that, yeah, again, there's the fiefdom barracks you can build in Dol Amroth. Again, the only other place you can build it. You can build this building in only two places, Dol Amroth and Minas Tirith. That is it. You will never see it ever again, except for these two factions and your capital region. Breathe, breathe. I almost lost my voice again. Okay, where was I? Oh yes, buildings. So I'll just talk for the stables, and now I'm going to look for the barracks. So exactly the same as the other barracks, town guard, barracks, army barracks, except you get some slightly different additions. In your starting tier, instead of just having Gondor militia and then any other fiefdom unit that might be around, like the Lamedon clansmen, you have an Amrothian pikeman unit and Amrothian guardsmen. If this isn't already a hint that you are an extremely defensive nation, I don't know what will. A pike unit and a spear and shield unit with both massively good defences. Yeah. Your job is to play the defensive role, as most of Gondor is. And then we come to the Archery Range. Again, same as with Gondor, although I didn't show all these off. The Practice Range, you can get the Archer Militia, and then also get your Nimrodel Rangers. But again, remember, these are restricted to your homeland regions. In fact, I'm going to check Etheland again and see if it is actually a homeland region. It is. If you can make Nimrodel Rangers, then every other AOR unit that acquires a homeland region you can make. Then the tier 2, you can get your only other mainstream archer units, Amrothian archers. And are they good? Imagine Gondor archers, but slightly less impressive armor, and then give them even better impressive armor. And you've got yourself just got the base archers for the Amrothians. And then the siege, again, no different from any other faction. Ballista maker, catapult maker, but then you get the siege works, which very much like Gondor can make you the trebuchets. And again, this will soon be added to the Ardenheim. I don't know when, but it is a thing that has been mentioned by the mod leader. And as for the smiths, very similar to Gondor, you can make up to tier 5. This is Gondor and Dol Amroth are one of the only two factions that actually have, except for the dwarves, tier 5 armorers. Obviously, you've seen Umbar; they only have tier 4. Harad tier 3. Rune tier 4. Gondor and Dol Amroth are some of the only human nations that get tier 5. The other one being Arnor, but that wasn't always the case. Back in the day, Dol Amroth and Gondor were the only human nations that can make tier 5 armor. The elves of Imladris and Linden it makes sense for. Lorien and Mirkwood not so much because they have more lighter armor and their elite units don't really need increased armor stats. But for the dwarves, it's their main keepsake. We'll talk about them when we get to the dwarves. And so then back to our building browser. I know this is terribly done. I'm just going through it, trying to speed through everything because I don't have all day, unfortunately. So going to the Master Builders, very similar to every other nation. You've got the Mason's Hall, the Master Mason's Hall, and the Mason's Guild House. And again, you require these to build a large city. But the first two you don't really need until later on, but it is good to get them early on. Very similar to Gondor, it's good to get these early on, and you have a lot less regions to worry about and a lot more resources to work with. You're in a slightly better stance than Gondor, but only because you have it will depends on if you would like to have a smaller region to start with or a larger region to start with. If you like starting with a massive region, controlling everything all at once, then you want the Gondor experience. If you prefer to have a smaller nation, which is also equally defensive, has all these amazing building options, but you want to have a bit more of a focus on elsewhere rather than just there, then you want Dol Amroth. And then if you just want to have complete fun and not care about anything and just have everything, then you want to play as the Northern Dunedain. But we'll go to them next time probably. And as for the ports, very much like Gondor, you are, unlike Gondor however, more of a naval nation, similar to the Ardenheim, but I would say your ships go slightly above, and the unit you get from the dockyards are the most elite units out of all three of the nations that are port focused. The Haven Guard. Look at those stats. Yes, this isn't technically an AOR unit, but it is probably one of your best AOR units because it is less restricted than any other AOR unit you have. It can be made in any coastal region, which means it can be made in Etheland, it can be made in Dol Amroth, it can be made in Methrast, it can be made in Linhir, it can be made in Gobel Tofalas. It can be made from here down to, I can't remember the names of those regions, but then all the way down into Umbar. All these regions here can make you those Haven Guard. From the beginning. First tier. First tier? First tier or second tier? First tier of ports. You can make the Haven Guard. You can make the Haven Guard units. First tier. How is that fair? You may be wondering. Because they require 75 Dunedain culture. That's why. That's the only thing that makes them balanced. Is that they require so much culture that they're almost impossible to make without giving enough time to your culture, which is what most elite units should have. Anyway, coming back again to here, I'm just going to keep coming back and forth from Dol Amroth for my needs. And then we've got the sea trade, the docklands, the warehouse, merchant's wharf. Said it the wrong way around, but still the same. Just a nice little increase in resources, but slightly better than, no, it's exactly the same as all the others, but you can get all the way up to the docklands. And the marketplace, you're one of the factions that doesn't actually get tier 5 Great Market or Bazaar or whatever it's called. You just get the Great Market because your resources don't really come from trade from a marketplace. They come from trade with Great Roads. Yep, this is the third time we're seeing them now, the Great Roads. The Ardenheim can make them, Gondor can make them, Northern Dunedain can make them, Dol Amroth can make them, and the Dwarves can make them. Very restricted in where they can be made, but they are so good. And there's a reason why. Because they're expensive. Expensive things always end up being better in the long run. And then becomes food production, get up to the irrigation, same as every other, yada yada yada. The livestock, you're one of the factions that get a... I'm surprised this unit still exists. I really am. I thought they would have removed this by now. But yeah, you get a special farming building, which I believe Gondor does get as well, which I forgot to mention. They get the livestock farming, similar to what Breen the Shire can do. But yours is, well, it's not as important really, because all it is chicken farming, sheep farming, cattle farming. The wild men of of Dunland and the Northern Dunedain can get this building as well, but unlike them, Bree, Gondor and Dol Amroth can get from these buildings the farmhand pikemen, which are a terrible pikeman unit. Terrible stats, but you know what they do good? Nothing. That's the point. They're the one pikeman unit you can trust to fail in any duty, even stopping cavalry. I've charged against them over and over and over again with cavalry, and I've taken 0 casualties sometimes. I mean, they're not all bad, but never expect them to be good. Never expect farmhand pikemen to be good. So next we come to the mines. Like every other faction, you get the same, well, every human nation, you get the same extra building income. And then the rest of the income from mining depends on which region you're in. And then we come to different guilds. You are one of the factions that has 3 different guilds. The Merchants Guild, which I have no idea how you get. I think it requires a, I'm guessing because of the building design, it requires a large marketplace to start getting the Merchants Guild and the Master Merchants Guild. For the Warriors Guild, I believe you require blacksmiths. It would make sense because it's a melee weapon bonus. And then you can get the Brotherhood of the Talon. Wherever you make this building, you can get your most elite sword and board. Pardon me. Your most elite sword and board unit, the Talon Knights, and probably the most elite sword and board units, because they're basically dismounted Knights of the Silver Swan. And I'm going to mention more and more about how good both of those units are together. And then because you are quite a cavalry-based nation, you also get the horse breeders, the master horse breeders, and the Swan stable. Unfortunately, you don't get Knights of the Silver Swan if you manage to get this level 3 tier, because that's still busted as hell. That is still busted as hell. The education is the same as every other nation, but for you, when you reach tier 3, you get, like I said, the melee weapon bonus. You don't require the Warriors Guild to get the melee weapon bonus anymore. You just need the education for it. Get the university, and you can start giving your units the melee weapon bonus they deserve. Then you've also got the entertainment, up to the pleasure palace, where you get, this is where you get your spies, for those that don't already know where you get spies from. And then like with Gondor, you get the meeting halls. But another thing to note is, you actually get a unit from here. What are these coastal wardens? They're a javelin unit. That is it. They're a javelin unit, but with their two javelins, and require a coastal region to make them, they can do some damage against a mounted unit, although if they get charged, then it's too late for them. They're already dead. Their javelins are only good against their mounted opponents. And you've also obviously got the armory and the royal armory. Exactly the same income reduction, same public order bonus, same bonus. You get a garrison troop. You get the second one. You get a second garrison troop unit, and they're both upgraded. Then, like I said, the fiefdom barracks is where you can get your the Pinithgelen, Amphalas, Blackroot Vale, Lamedon, and Lebanon fiefdoms. You can't get the Dunedain Rangers, not the Dunedain, the Aphelion Rangers from them, but you can get them from the lands of the Poros. I'm gonna take this away. You can get it from the lands of the Poros, which is here, up to here, where this river is, up to Henethanoon. You can get from here, here, and here. You can get some Aphelion Rangers from them, which are exactly the same stats as your Nimrodel Rangers, although maybe 1 or 2 tweaked stats just to make the Aphelion Rangers slightly more armor, have less armor, and the Nimrodel Rangers have more armor, because they are more of a elite archer more than a ranger unit. And I think the model even mentioned that he's going to take the Nimrodel Rangers away from the ranger status to make them more like rename like Nimrodel's Guard or something. Make them feel like a bit more at home. And then the House of the Kings, where you can get, which you can only make in Fornost. But if you do, I never noticed it, you can actually make Fountain Guard and Tirthior Wardens. And we're going to what the Tirthior units are when we get to the second part of the video, because unfortunately we can't show them off here. Because the building you get them from is the Tirthior itself. But only after the barracks event does it actually tell you what the Tirthior does after that. Not only is that a massive recruitment increase, retraining cost reduction, and public order, and where you get your diplomat from, but it allows you to make 3 extremely elite units that can only be made from the Tirthior. The Seaward Tower, it's also known as. Then Town Health, Public Baths, Public Fountain, nothing new about it. You can get banks, I forgot, a Merchant Bank and a Merchant Vault. I have no idea how you make this. I have no idea. I think it requires some investment into the Merchants Guild and going really, really into economy. Then you've got the music, which you can get the theatre and the conservatorium. This gives increase in public order, and it secretly gives population growth for those of you that didn't know. And at the Farlad Bridge, if you rebuild it, you can get the Farlad Royal Guard like all the other Dunedain nations, except for the Ardenine, which do get their elite units instead. But still, the Farlad Royal Guard are pretty good. Don't discount them for being bad. But other than that, the only other building is the military academy building, and that requires the garrison quarters, and then you can increase your experience train at your region. And obviously you can upgrade it to give it +3 instead of +2. So, anything else to mention about Dol Amroth before we get into it? You probably start with two of the strongest generals in the game. Prince Imrahil, or Lord Imrahil, sorry, not called Prince right now. And then Prince Adrihil.
The blood of Numenor.
Prince Adrihil has a unit of your elite Talon Knights, which I unfortunately moved them all the way back into a balance so I can't get them out. But Lord Imrahil gets the generic bodyguard, the Royal Swan Guard. You may be thinking, but why doesn't he get like the Knights of the Silver Swan? Does he not deserve an elite kind of unit? And I'm going to say it right now, shame on you for thinking this is not an elite unit. Shame on you. Because not only are they better than any other cavalry general in the game, they are the cavalry unit of the game. Cavalry general unit of the game. And you get it in 3 of your generals. Istion and Amandir. And you start with 5 generals. So 3 of your starting generals have extremely powerful cavalry units. Very similar to that of the Black Snake Guard, but they lose a little in their numbers because of their increased stats. And I must admit, they've got at least another 10 in defense, another 2 in their before charge attack, an additional 2 in their secondary attack, and at least another 1 maybe in their charge bonus. May lose a 1 on them. I don't remember. I can't really tell, but I will make sure to check in the second stage when we fight against Harad. So yeah, you start with a very large roster of units to start from just your basic regions. Just getting the barracks, the meeting hall, the stables, and the archery range gives you all of these units, except for the Haven Guard and these units and the Royal Swan Guard, of course. But this has to be in a homeland region. Without a homeland region, you only get the Nimrodel Rangers. If you don't have a coastal region, you can't meet the Haven Guard or the Coastal Wardens. So you've only got Gondor Militia, Archer Militia, Gondor Cavalry Militia, the Amrothian Squires, the Amrothian Guardsmen and Pikemen, and that's it. Which is still not bad. Compared to Gondor, that is still not bad. You have a lot of early game potential, but that also is one of your greatest flaws. Because in the early game, you have to play either super aggressive, which Dol Amroth is not known for doing in the very early game, because you have no aggressive units. Unless you go full-on Gondor Militia, which is the worst thing to do, the only thing you can really do is go for a felon, claim it, start building up your regions, start making massive amounts of money, and then send a full stack down to start attacking Harad. That's the best way to do it, in my opinion. The best way to do it is, because Harad will only attack you at Linhir, and unlike in the past, where Harad was already on your doorstep by turn 5, you have at least 20 turns now where you can actually start taking the strengths of the Anduin, Northern Merlond. Oh, that's it, go on Merlond. Sorry, going off topic a bit. But yeah, you do start with a pretty large army. You've got 2 really good archer generals, which you can send out. One from Gobel Toflas, another from the settlement here, or the fort here, but you might want to keep him in Ethelon to keep them happy. Another thing to mention about Ethelon, it is your only city. Yes, technically Linhir is a town and all, and it's still in the same tree and everything, but it's not immediately a city. Ethelon can give you so much potential in the early game if you build it up quick enough. Because that's the thing as well. It's currently a city, and it cannot upgrade. It cannot upgrade to a large city without 1, getting the Master Mason's guild house, 2, timesing by 1,000 or 100 of their population, which could take nearly 200 turns. So Ethelon, you could make a military base and have everywhere else be your economy booster, but I find Ethelon to be a bit difficult in the early game. For even though you have good culture, you do need to try and stabilize everything at once, and it is difficult. I'm not gonna lie, it is one of the most difficult challenges, keeping everything happy in Dol Amroth to begin with. Especially if I'm correct on this, the Umbar invasions still exist for Dol Amroth, and you can be attacked in any of your homeland regions. It's not like Gondor where you have only a few regions that are coastal. All of your starting regions are coastal. You can be attacked from anywhere by Harad, by Umbar. You don't have much option. You don't have many options on when it comes to what you can actually do when it comes to trying to fight back. All you can do is build up your defences, build a massive nest, and just beat the crap out of anything that comes your way. I hope that wasn't too audible and just made everything crackle, because I really hate it when that happens when I'm watching YouTube videos. But another thing to mention is, back in the day when, I'm going to keep saying back in the day because I am an old person like that, but back in the day when Umbar still did the invasions, I'm not 100% sure they do, but it is still a possibility they still do. But they used to start claiming regions like Amphalos and wherever that region is, and Falagrondost. You could actually move up and take those regions afterwards from Umbar. Gondor wouldn't care because you're not invading them. You're invading the regions of their enemy, and you're still both direct allies. But the best thing to do, as Dol Amroth to start off with, is to try and go down here, in my opinion, take the straight into the Anduin, and go for the lands of the Poros. That way you're protecting Gondor from any attacks from the south completely, so Gondor can focus entirely upon the east, focusing Mordor, while Mordor is busy with Gondor. They won't target you, but if they do, you just have a massive garrison in the lands of the Poros. You can keep making Aphelion Rangers, keep making Lebanon Guardsmen. You get a few fiefdom units just from this region alone. At least you used to. And then just also just hold out a Lin here against any attack Harad makes, because they will make a lot of attacks on you. And before, they used to also attack you at Gobal Tofalas. But another thing to note is, Gobal Tofalas does have a unique strategy battle map. Very similar, very much like what you see in front of you. It starts with a small settlement that's been ruined, but then you have to go over a bridge, and it's another whole area we need to climb up onto. Very much like the original Kaya Andros map, but that's been changed around. So what do I recommend when it comes to your generals? I recommend having Lord Imrahil, along with Istion and Amandia, and send them immediately to try and claim these two regions. Have Adrihil just have Adrihil stay in Dol Amroth or maybe in Afellan to keep the public order up. Then send out Mistben, and he is going to claim the lands of the Poros, because he, as an archer general, is more powerful than a cavalry general against the armies of Khand, which are all cavalry based, and more importantly, cavalry archers. Strike cavalry units are useless against cavalry archers, and that's why the White Knights of Felland were made so powerful and only restricted to their one region to make them so powerful. But god damn are they good. God damn are they good. We'll go into more about that again very, very shortly. But other than that, yeah, if the invasion still exists and Umbar does take these regions away from you, or if you're just playing an older version of the game, you could just prefer the older version, or if you can actually find the old files for them, go on and go west. Go attack Enedwife, go up to Londair. But I do recommend fully starting the game a bit aggressive, just a teeny bit aggressive before Harad gets the upper hand. If you let Harad take these regions from you in the very beginning of the game, you're going to be in a really bad mess. Because not only is Gondor going to get attacked, and if Gondor's splitting their attention away from Mordor, and that is where they falter, that is where they lose, and that is where you will start to lose. Because if Gondor falters, so do you. Because you are brother and sister in a way. You cannot allow. If one was to fall, the other will fall with it. You can't hope to ascend above the other. They're equals. Even though it may not seem like it, you as Dol Amroth, you as you are right now, the principality of Dol Amroth and the kingdom of Gondor, you are an equal of Gondor, and the AI knows this, and that is why even in Total War, they try to in the Total War submod, they try to best you, because they know they can't live without you, so they want you to be a part of you. But that's me. That's going a bit out of context. So main tips with Dol Amroth on the strategy battle map: go straight for Afelland, don't falter, take Afelland as quick as possible, take the Straits of the Anduin, go for the lands of the Poros, stop anyone from ever attacking Gondor, and let Gondor defeat Mordor slowly. And if they seem to fail, if they lose Osgiliath, there's nothing wrong with you going up and taking Osgiliath. if you're shot, because the best thing is, you as Dol Amroth will still get all the fiefdom units of Gondor, so you will be even stronger if you take Osgiliath, because you'll get the Osgiliath veterans, you'll get their pikemen, you'll get the municipal guardians. If they lose Minas Tirith, you get the Fountain Guard, you get the Knights of the White Tower. If you were to, at the same time, if you were to lose, if Dol Amroth was to lose, Gondor could claim a felon, they can claim Dol Amroth, they can get some of their elites, they get the Tirith units. But I think they're a lot more limited than you are when it comes to their differences. Basically, if you were ever to play a faction where you wanted to play both Dol Amroth and Gondor, but you had to choose between which faction to start as and then defeat the other, I recommend playing Dol Amroth first, because Dol Amroth has a much wider roster of units, and they get so supplemented by all of Gondor's fiefdom units. They just become a nigh unstoppable force, and that is why I want to do a Dol Amroth faction in a Total War campaign, in a Total War mod fashion. But that will be a thing to do in the future, because I have other plans for other factions first. But anyway, enough talking on other things in the future. For right now, let us go on to the battle map. And welcome back to the battle map. And as you can see, we've actually split things up even further than what we normally do. These units are the units that we can get at any region, from anywhere. And here is our AOR list, including the general, just because technically the general can only be made in one region, so just put them there for fun. So, as you can see, compared to the rest of your units, your AOR units are very, very limited to the back line. Mainly because if I was able to show off all the fiefdom units of Gondor, they would practically take up the rest of this quadrant here. But first, looking at the base tier units for Dol Amroth, exactly the same as with Gondor, but again, just going to go through them anyway. So, the Gondor Militia. Attack of 6, charge of 3, total defense of 10. Really, hardly any flaws in them. The only thing is, because they're so average, they're okay. They're only okay at what they do. They are amazing at what they do because they're not meant to be. But they also can pick a fight. They can't really exactly pick a fight with anyone. But if anyone was to pick a fight with them that was weaker, they wouldn't stand much of a chance. Next comes the Archer Militia. Like most archers, better than most weak trash tier units like the Orcs or the original archers for Haradrim and Umbar and Rune. But not really much better than any of them, really. Only the main weakness is they're losing a few numbers to get a little bit in missile attack and quite a bit in top defense. But that's it. They're not, again, same as the Gondor Militia. They're not ones to pick a fight, but they sure know how to end one. And it's either with their deaths or the deaths of their opponents. And then we come to the Cavalry Militia. Same stats, 3, 5, 10, and their secondary attack is 6. Again, pretty good, pretty standard what they do, and again, like most nations, except for with Dol Amroth in their playstyle, I would say only use these as a last resort, as a really needy trump card kind of fashion, because there's so many better cavalry options, and unlike with Gondor, it's not like you run out of options. You have more than enough options at every tier. I mean at every tier, you have a cavalry unit at every single tier. And then we come to the second tier. I've just put the Amrovian archers with this. Even though they are a Barracks event tier unit, they should technically be put back here. But seeing that they're named the same as the Amrovian pikemen and guardsmen, might as well because they are basically just a slightly better archer militia and made into Gondor archer, a better Gondor archer militia. So first, the Amrovian Guardsmen, meant to be a slightly weaker version of the Gondor Spearmen, but only slightly weaker, and can be made a tier 1. And you may be thinking, okay, that's pretty good, seeing it from the very beginning of the game. But another thing to note is these are expensive. They're the same cost as most Elven starting units. And then compare their stats to most Elven starting units, you'll find this unit, except for it not being an elf and having slightly worse morale and certain terrain bonuses and balances, they are basically the same as any elf. you'll soon find with most of Dol Amroth, because Dol Amroth was originally land held by the elves. Their ancestors, or the men that live in Dol Amroth, are actually half elf. Most of them are actually descendants of elves as well. For example, the current Prince Imrahil of the time of the War in the North, Imrahil is actually a half elf, and that's the same with most of the royal bloodline of Dol Amroth. They just have slightly long. They don't have longer lifespans like most elves, or like Arwen, who decided to live the mortal life, even though she could still be immortal. They didn't have that kind of choice. They're still technically human, but they have elven blood flowing through their veins, if that makes any sense.
Fight for your honor!
Then we have the Amrothian pikemen, a really early tier pikeman unit that actually rivals the Rudar pikeman unit, in my opinion, for the best statted early pikeman unit. The Rudar pikemen just beat them for the fact that they're a lot easier to make, and the Amrothian pikemen are about twice the cost and upkeep for them to stay around compared to the Rudar pikemen. And before we go to the archers, let's just go to the squires quickly. So compare them to their earlier tier. It's another thing to note. It's hard to really compare the Gondor militia to the Amrothian pikemen and the guardsmen, because this is a balanced unit. These two are not balanced at all compared to the spearmen or the swordsmen of Gondor. They are a fully fledged defensive unit, and so can't really be put in either tier of aggression or defense, or neutral. They're just fully defense. But then we come to the Amrothian Squires. This unit we can compare to the Gondor Cavalry Militia. Very similar to the basic Gondor Cavalry, but not as strong. But they do have shields. So their charging attack is 4 with a charge of 7, compared to 3 and 5. So not too much difference. But then additional 4 total defense, 1 in shield, 1 in defense skill, and 2 in armor. And then compare the secondary attack as 7 compared to 6. They are just above the Gondor Cavalry Militia and don't cost much more either. Granted, their actual recruitment on the campaign side is slightly less. They're not made as often as the militia. But to be honest, militia is meant to be made more often than any other unit. But the Amrothian Squires, you want to get these in the early game, not the Gondor Cavalry Militia. Unlike with Gondor, we didn't have the choice. You now have the choice, and make that choice. Make the smart choice. Go for the Amrothian Squires. And next we come to the archers. Again, it's hard to judge these to the archers because this is a barracks event tier unit, but I'm still going to judge them accordingly. So melee attack of 3 against a non-melee attack of 6. Missile attack of 3 against 5. Okay, not too different. Charge bonus of 2 against 3. Okay, not too different. And total defense of 9 against 17. Okay, so they're slightly getting more armored up. And yes, this unit does actually have more total defense than the Amrothian Guardsmen, but again, this is a unit that comes after the barracks event. It should be on the same tier as the Seaward units, but because they're not really qualified in the same position, I'm just put them here. Because yes, they're better, but if we were to say for a moment that this unit could be made before the barracks event, they'd probably lose 1 in missile attack, 2 in their melee attack. Their charge bonus is probably the same, but they lose at least 5 total defense. 5 defense just for being from tier 3 to tier 2 units, in my opinion. And the worst thing is, it's not hard to do either. It'd be so easy to do, and they could do it. But obviously, then you'd have very few archer units in the late game, and Dol Amroth needs that, especially when they lost one of their most elite archer units. But we'll talk about what happened there later when we come to the Aor types. And then we come to the Seaward units. Now originally, the Dor and Ernel units, as they used to be called, because the region inside of the Dol Amroth principality are actually known as Dor and Ernil. But they decided to rename them as the Seaward units because these are not restricted to Dor and Ernil. The Lancers used to be, but not anymore. That's all I'm going to say. They used to be, but not anymore.
Swordsman
so first, the Seaward footmen. 9 attack, compare them to the... I'm going to compare these as if they were in the same tier as the Peruvian archers. Gondor Militia, that's an additional 3 attack, same charge bonus, but additional, they double their defense, double their total defense. And that's only 2 tiers above. That's only 1 tier difference. And if they were to go down to here, I would imagine they would have only one. They would lose an attack and lose about 4 total defense, in my opinion. That's how much I think they lose if they were to be categorized in that fashion. It's very much comparing them to the guardsmen, the Amrothian guardsmen, but instead of having a full defensive measure, being more aggressive because they are more of a sword and board unit. And then we come to the unit that we can compare to the Amrothian guardsmen, the Seaward Spearmen, which was the unit of the new General Psycho Dol Amroth. So this unit, like every spear unit, you can make a shield wall, go against mount, same as the Amrothian guardsmen, but has additional 2 attack, same charge, but another 8 total defense. That's a lot of total defense for a unit. That is a lot of total defense. In fact, that's 6 of that is in armor. So they're becoming a lot stronger against archers, but are not the. But again, compared to most units at tier 3, they haven't got the best defense skill, because yes, they've got the heavy armor and all, but that doesn't give them the overall advantage against others. Against armor piercing, the armor goes back to what it was, back to the level of the Amrothian guardsmen, and they're no better than the Amrothian guardsmen at that point. Against armor piercing, the Seaward Spearmen are exactly the same as the Amrothian guardsmen, just costing an extra 300 to recruit and about another near 100 upkeep. That's a big problem. Yes, it's a good unit. Can't deny it's a really good unit, but I still have my doubts on this tier. I'm not gonna lie. I still have my doubts with these Seaward units. But the main reason is because these are not AOR restricted. They're not meant to be amazing. They're just meant to be good. They're not meant to be on the upper echelons of the gate of like Gondor when they start hitting their Citadel Guard units. These are just meant to be the same. These are just meant to be on the same tier as the Gondor units. So the Gondor footmen are meant to be the same as the Seaward footmen. The Gondor Spearmen are meant to be the same as the Seaward Spearmen. The Gondor Cavalry seem to be the Seaward Lancers. Just the Seaward Lancers are a lot better. And the Amrothian Archers are meant to be the same as the Gondor Archers. That's the kind of difference they're doing. But with Dol Amroth, it's a lot more varied, because some units are better in one territory, but are weaker in another. Where Gondor is fully balanced. There's no aggression. There's no defense focus. It's just whatever. You do whatever. They're good at anything. Anyway, back to the Seaward Lancers. So very similar to the Gondor Cavalry. In fact, they've got exactly the same stats in place. So an 8 basic attack, 11 charge, and a 9 secondary attack. But they have also got a powerful obviously got a powerful charge. 11 charge is going to be hard to beat. But also 20 defense because they also have a shield. So these are already above. You'll find your cavalry is actually above everything else compared to Gondor because you are a cavalry nation. And at the same tier as the Gondor cavalry, you already beat them. Take that as a win because it is worth it. But that is all you have in non-restricted regions. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 units out of 20. And this isn't even the full roster you have. This is not the full roster. It's just most of it. 10 units, so half of your base roster, not including the Municipal Guardians, because again they're not technically your true roster. But because a unit used to exist here, but I wanted to make sure I had to have the full 20. So now we come to the AOR units, and we start with the first tier units that I think they're okay, but are actually worse than your militia. The Coastal Wardens. A 3 melee attack, so they're useless in hand-to-hand combat. The missile attack of 6. Yeah, that sounds good. That sounds good. How many missiles do they have? 2. Range 55 meters. So they're what can you call them? Your trash tier, but they're AOR. It's really hard to categorize this unit. It really is, because you'd think all your AOR units, very similar to how Gondor's AOR units, give them a bit more diversity. that these actually do something really impactful that make Gondor, make Dol Amroth important, because it's a coastal region requirement unit. Surely it's important if you can only make it in regions like your main regions. No. I can honestly say without a doubt, a coastal region, a coastal warden region, unit, it's better to have a Gondor militia unit. Because not only do you have more total defense, not only do you have more double the attack, but what's the point of having a missile attack of 6 that does 2 shots against a cavalry unit when you already have pikemen, you already have guardsmen? What do they do? And I've been questioning myself about that every time I play as them. But the thing is, they still know how to shine. They're like that one crossbow unit with Rue or the odd 9. You need to know when to use them the most. And this is a unit you have 1 or 2 of in one small army, just to try and get a few cheeky kills on a advancing cavalry elite unit you can't stop on your own. That is about the best thing I can give to these coastal wardens, because other than that, they are trash tier. They are without a doubt trash tier. I can't say much else about them. But then 2 tiers later, we come to the rest of our AOR units, and only one of these units can be made before the barracks event. Actually, no, I tell a lie. 2, 3 units can be made before the barracks event. The municipal guardians can, but you'll never make them in time. And the Haven Guard, but the Haven Guard are a massive exception because of the fact they are your coastal. Again, like I said, coastal wardens are your coastal region requirement unit, but can be made from the meeting halls, so they're your trash tier. And this is the unit you can make from your by actually making ports. Not unlike with the Ardenheim and Linda, we need to make tier 2. You get these from tier 1, and I didn't know that until today. I always thought they were the same as all the others at tier 2. We'll get into them later. So the first of your AOR elites, your ranger units. In most cases, your ranger unit is probably like here, but for Gondor or for Dol Amroth, it's hard to say, because yes, they're better than the Amrothian archers, and that's kind of why I put them on this tier instead of putting them on the same tier as the Nimrodel Rangers. Because compared to them, the Nimrodel Rangers beat them in every class except for one thing: armor. Armor, and that's it. Armor and a bit of defense skill. But again, these can be made before the barracks event, but can only be made in your key regions. But unlike the Amrothian archers that only have good stamina, these have excellent stamina. They're able to run around a lot, get some cheeky flanking shots off, and keep going. And they don't actually, unfortunately, they've only got the model of it. But if this was a Dunedain Steelbow unit, that is the actual Steelbow model that these are wielding. I wish when they remake these Nimrodel Rangers, they will actually give them the full Steelbow treatment and give them armor-piercing missiles. Because, Gondor has no armor-piercing. Without the Rondor Mercs, which you can also make, but I didn't show off because I didn't have the space, and the Lotonic Axemen, which again you can't make unless you immediately harass Gondor, which you never want to do. You have no armor piercing, so the odd 9 could trounce you. Obviously against a faction like Harad, which has no armor, what's the big deal? There is no big deal, you just somehow win. But yeah, coming back to the Nimrodel Rangers, melee attack of 7, missile attack of 6. Obviously because it's a human ranger, that's the best we're going to see. And then a weak total defense, but it's not weak, it's just weak compared to like the Amrothian archers. But again, they're more aggressive, but they lose that defense. And I hope when these get remade, they actually gain that defense back, because I feel like they need it. This is such a unique unit, like every other ranger unit, but they lose the flair of being rangers because of how they look. And if you take that look away from them, then they're not really appealing. But if you make them into away from rangers, they gain that extra momentum to make them even better. I really hope they do something well with these rangers, because I personally love this unit, and it's kind of what I detailed my pixel art of myself about, with the blue, the dark blue cloak glowing in the distance, just about the silver swan on the backs. Because yeah, I'm not that good at pixel art to get a silver swan on my cloak. And then we come to the unit I gave a lot of credit for, and you may be thinking, Neville, this is a very, you're being very harsh right now. You said this unit is amazing. Why is it currently the weakest out of all your other elites? Well, that's because these units are something else. This is one of your best units, but the thing is, the rest of your best units are right behind him. Looking at their stats, these are actually similar stats to the elite Serpent Guards of Harad, and you can only get this from one region compared to the Black Serpent Guard. But they inspire nearby troops and are skilled against mounts, so they keep people happy around them. But some running away, and with their archers, a missile attack of 6 I will add. And again, I'm going to talk more about what happened to that other unit I was mentioning before. Basically, the White Knights was what they were originally known as. They were a sword and board cavalry unit, one of the only sword and board cavalry units in the game, known for prolonging a cavalry battle one-on-one because they could actually hold on. I can't remember any other units that did that. It might have been... No. I can't remember. But yeah, one of the only few sword and board units in the game. They still are, but they now also are unique in the fact that they are archers, with stats that's very similar to the Nimrodel Rangers. The same missile attack, just not very high accuracy, only high, losing a bit of their range because they're mounted. They lose 90 meters, but they have 34 missiles, more than the Nimrodel Rangers. Granted, you can make these 4 times more often, and you can make them from the very beginning of the game. But this unit is evil. If there's one thing to mention about Ethelland, you get that early stables, you start pumping out this unit. I don't even know what will happen because I've never played with this unit before. But I really want to. I know from the facts, from playing a little bit canned, that horse archer units are extremely overpowered, and so they had to nerf them, and that's what they did. Except this unit seems to be kind of a testament of time, and still has some of the strength, not only because they're elven blood and their past, but also just because, from a lore perspective, these are probably the second most elite horse archer unit in the game. And I don't want to brag about that because I might be very, very, very wrong. But I believe only the general unit for Canned beats the White Knights of Elven. There might be one more unit that beats them, but I don't think it's a pure cavalry unit. It might be the chariots that can get from their special scripts. But now we come to the units of the Swan, a talent, or the Haven Guard. So the Haven Guard again require coastal regions. You can make them from the very beginning of the game, and yet they're so high up on our list compared to the javelins of the Odd 9, which were about tier 2. Same with as the Rosadon units. And the Lindar Mariners, which I believe will be at the same tier as their tier 1 Elven units, just because there's a little bit above the tier 1 units. This unit, compared to the rest of Dol Amroth's roster, is really high up on the list. So high, in fact, I was tempted to put it here, but I instead decided to put it here because of the next few units we're going to be mentioning. So this is your first real aggressive unit that's not on a horse. Your one and only aggressive, your purely aggressive units. Mainly because they have a powerful charge, attack of 15, charge of 8, and a total defense of 23. Even your most aggressive unit, though it's not armor piercing, is an absolute beast. And you can make them from the beginning of the game. That's even more busted. But yeah, whenever you get these units, treat them with so much love and care. Because not only are they amazing in battle, but the more of them you can keep alive, to fight against a major threat, you're gonna see stars. You're gonna see the 7 stars shining above as these great claymore swords strike fear into the hearts of their enemies. Yeah, I've played a long time with these Haven Guard, and I remember back their original models. Granted, I do prefer their original models because of the armor type. It was more of an Elven style. But that's because I'm basically in love with all elves from Lord of the Rings. It's not a big deal, right? And then we come to, well, I'm going to mention why these 3 units are behind them, or behind these 2 units, because technically these 2 units, the Talon Knights and the Knights of the Silver Swan, are your most elite units. Not only are they both inspired troops, but they frighten nearby enemy infantry. And the Knights of the Silver Swan are also skilled against mounts, and they have insane stats. Insane stats. And again, the Knights of the Silver Swan have a powerful charge. They both have excellent stamina, and they have lots of morale. And I do believe the Haven Guard do not have lots of morale. But these 3 units, I can't actually categorise them.
Prepare for battle.
The sad thing is, I can't act like the Municipal Guard where I could with Gondor, because they were the same tier as the Fountain Guard and all that. But compared them to things like the Talon Knights, I could just put them here, but they're not quite there because you can't make them as often as these units can. You can make all 3 of these units very easily from your homeland regions, where this unit can only be made from a region very, very far away, so it's kind of like back all the way there. But it's still an extremely powerful defensive unit, and because you kind of lose out on your defense from the Seaward Spearmen, which have 6, 3, 22, 11, 5, 31. That is that's almost doubling attack, doubling charge, and gaining additional 9 armor for total defense. That's a big, big improvement, and it's not all in defense and armor either, so they're not armor piercing won't beat them easily. Yeah, coming back to the Talon Knights. So an attack of 12, a charge attack of 4, a total defense of 30, and your faction leader starts with this unit. Granted, they're not the big dick units that the Haven Guard are, but they can hold out in a battle more than most, because not also do they inspire your troops, but they frighten the enemy, and that is so important. It's less important with the Knights of the Silver Swan, but with the Talon Knights, it is so important. It's so important to know that they can inspire troops and frighten enemy infantry, because in a long combat where both sides are exhausted, these guys are going to start making the difference. If you can't focus on the Talon Knights quick enough to make their morale bonuses and balances to both yourselves and your opponents, it becomes very obvious that this unit is the backbone of your nation in the late game. You start forgetting about all of these units, and you focus entirely upon the roster you see right in front of you. Nimrodel Rangers, White Knights of Elven, your ranged options. Then you have the Haven Guard as your aggressive unit, your Talon Knights as your staying unit, and your Knights of the Silver Swan as your does everything, kills everything except for pikeman units. These 3 technically don't exist at this point right now because they're so hard to get and so rare. It's these 5 units that you will see the most in your campaigns in the late game as Dol Amroth. And the thing is, they are all restricted to Dol Amroth. They're all restricted to your homeland regions, except for the Haven Guard, which can be made from more regions, which means you'll have more of them than any other units, which makes them stand out more to be here than here compared to the Talon Knights, because they can be made more often. Then you think, okay, so this is your basic rank and file units, and the answer is no. The answer, clear as day, is no. Because as good as the Haven Guard are, the Talon Knights are meant to be your staying unit, the unit you want more than any other. And that is why, once you hit the barracks event, I always went straight into military, because I wanted these Talon Knights, and I wanted those Knights of Silver Swan as soon as possible. But they're just too good. They are just too good. And nothing can stop them. In most points of the game, no unit in Harad has any of those stats comparable to them. Nothing stands up to them. Only the Fountain Guard and the White Guard of Minas Tirith have similar stats, but don't have the same abilities. And then we come to the second strongest cavalry unit in the game, beat only by the enlarged riders, but no one ever counts them. The Knights of the Silver Swan, also inspiring troops, frightening nearby enemy infantry, skilled against mounts as I mentioned, and have a powerful charge. Armed with excellent stamina, will hold out the fight for longer than most. With a 9 attack, 14 charge, and a 33 total defense. They have a really nice balance between their armor, their defense, and they even have a shield. How do you beat them? That's a good question, and the answer is, unless you have pikemen or any unit dedicated to killing cavalry, you don't. You just don't. And when we come to the Elder Ringway Lancers, we'll even mention these units as being close brothers in a way. Because although the Knights of the Silver Swan have all these amazing abilities, and the Elder Ringway Lancers do not, it's just their stats. The stats themselves make so much difference. But that doesn't mean from a split here that these units are weak. Again, these are the second strongest cavalry unit in the game, and there are a lot of tight contenders to this. And we haven't seen any of them yet. And the Nanunaro Royal Household Riders, I don't think are even in the top 5 in my opinion. They come close, but other units beat them just because of how easily you can make them. And Knights of the Silver Swan are definitely one of those units that aren't easy to make, but they're easy to make, just not easy to get many of. Because again, they are restricted to your homeland regions, and you can only make them in those 4 key regions. So they are really, really important to your playstyle, no matter how you play. And then we come to units I again cannot categorize. The Municipal Guardians, already mentioned them. 11 attack, 5 charge, 31 defense, and they just look so beautiful. I always want to play as Dol Amroth and just go straight for Minas Morgul and just make this unit. They're just beautiful. But then we come to units that I think are even more beautiful, even more powerful, even more deadly, and yet are actually easier to get than the Municipal Guardians, but can only be made from one region. The units of the Tirthior, and there used to be 3 units. There used to be an archer unit as well. But because the archer unit was so closely tied to the Nimrodel Rangers, they instead of removing it entirely, they removed the White Knights and made them the White Knights of Elven, a unit mixed between the Tirthior Marksmen and the White Knights, an archer unit and a cavalry unit. And together, this unit is a beast. But again, I could put it up here and say it's uncategorized, but it's very obvious the fact can only make from one region, it is down here, unfortunately. So yeah, the units of the Tirthior Wardens, an attack of 8, charge of 4, total defense of 20, 32. They lose a bit of their aggression because they are Wardens, but they gain a point of defense against the Municipal Guardians. Still, these units are better. This unit, without a doubt, is one of the best units in the game. But because this unit is a lot easier to make for Dol Amroth, it's still important to note that they can make shield wall, they are skilled against mounts, and they have excellent stamina. Granted, they don't have as good stats, but they are still a unit you should always consider, always think about. Again, compare them to their predecessors, the Seaward Spearmen. 6, 3, 22. That's 10 armor bonus, 2 attack, and 1 charge. But again, you're never charging. The whole purpose of these Wardens, along with the Talon Knights, is to be your defensive option. As I've already mentioned, you are a very defensive faction. You play the exact opposite of Harad. You and Harad are exact counterparts. While you are the ultimate defense, he is the ultimate. Harad is the ultimate attack. You are the shield, and he is the hammer. Harad is the hammer. And talking about hammers, we come to the Tirthior Knights. Now, originally, these were lance units, and as I mentioned before, with the White Knights of Elven, they were one of the only sword and board units that could sustain in a fight for long enough. But now, oh, that's it. The Guardians of Khan'Dûm also are now a sword and board, technically a sword and board cavalry unit. But now the Tirthior Wardens, the Knights, are now part of that as well. and are actually your first effective against armor unit. I only realised the second I saw them wielding maces, okay, they now have an armor piercing unit, and now this unit's even more powerful than it used to be. But basically, back when this unit was just it was basically a copy paste of the Knights of the Silver Swan. But instead of being better, they were worse. These knights were worse than the Knights of the Silver Swan, although you can only make them from one unit, one region. But now they've given them they're skilled against mounts and they're effective against armor. Yes, they lose their powerful charge because they no longer have a lance. Yes, they lose some of their potency, but again, they're no longer copy paste of Knights of the Silver Swan. They've given them a real uniqueness, and I love it. I've only just realised it, and I love it already. Now, with an attack of 8, that's all armor piercing from a horse. That charge as well of 6 is going to be really, really evil. Again, requires Dol Amroth, it requires a Tilifior. And a total defense of 28. Compared to the 33 of the Knights of the Silver Swan, yeah, that's pretty good. I just realised the Knights of the Silver Swan are actually your best unit. I knew it to be true, but I always thought the Tilifior Knights were slightly better, and then I remembered, oh wait, no. The Knights of the Silver Swan are just your best unit overall. They should be over there. They're just too strong. They're too good. They outclass most units in the game just because of their stats, and there's a good reason, and that's just why they're so good. And then of course the Tilifior Knights, as I've already mentioned, good defense, really good attack, armor piercing now, and they're also good against mounts. So yeah, originally Harad would always beat you cavalry versus cavalry because their cavalry always was best against other cavalry until you have the Knights of the Silver Swan. But now you can start off making this unit of Tilifior Knights from your capital, similar to how I put it with the Angmar campaign, and just wreak havoc. And this unit, I'd say, is 10% stronger and more defended against any enemy attacks than the Guardians of Khaldun were. So throw these into a fight and watch them do wonders. And then we finally come to the unit we've mentioned already in now 2 videos. Firstly in Gondor and now in Dol Amroth. And now once again we come to them. The Royal Swan Guard. 9 attack, 14 defense, total defense of 33. Exactly, in fact, their stats are exactly the same as the Knights of the Silver Swan. Exactly the same. They just don't have. They just aren't. All we are now though is skilled against mounts with a powerful charge. So yeah, you actually start off with your elite. You actually start off from the get-go with your best units, and you never even knew it. You start with a small portion of your strongest unit, and that's why if you merge Imrahil and the other two generals of the Royal Swan Guard, all of them together actually equal in size 1 unit of Knights of the Silver Swan, but better because they're all split up.
Knights of the Silver Swan.
And a split up unit is better than a merged unit that can only do one thing, where 3 units can puncture from 3 sides all at once, from the front, from the side, and from the rear. It's an evil thing, but it makes Dol Amroth so much more desirable. And I'm now going to compare the stats to a. I did pick Harad, so let's just look at again one of the best cavalry units in the other best cavalry units in the game from Harad's standpoint. So Harad's Black Snake Guard is their best unit because of their stats. Attack of 10, charge of 14, a total defense of 21. You lose 1 attack, have the same charge, and gain 12 armor for losing 8 soldiers. That is the average. That is the average for your generals compared to each other. You lose 8 people for 12 armor, or 12 total defense, and lose 1 attack. I hate to admit it, but that is a really... And you have better stamina. You have better stamina than them. In the long run, you may think, that is terrible. You'd think 22 would obviously beat 14. But in any other case, like a unit of Gondor Militia against the Royal Swan Guard, you'll find the Swan Guard, those 14 Swan Guard could kill all 177 of these Gondor Militia and lose maybe 1, 2, and then they fully replenish afterwards. So the small stat difference, which makes them more aggressive, is still so worth it. So I hope you all enjoyed my horrible explanation for why Dol Amroth is probably one of the strongest factions in the game if it weren't restricted. In fact, the strongest faction if it weren't restricted. Because again, if they were allowed to roam freely and have their units made anywhere and everywhere, they would be dominating, and that's why half their faction is Aor. Unlike with Gondor, where their Aor units are fiefdom units, which gives them their flavour, Dol Amroth units are Aor because they're too strong. They've been made too strong for the fact that if they weren't strong, they would stand no chance against any of their opponents. Because Gondor holds out because of their massive numbers and their elites. But what does Dol Amroth have? Except for a few slightly better elites that can only be made from Dol Amroth. They're basically the same thing when you think about it. Gondor and Dol Amroth are exactly the same. There's different colour palettes. Has a slightly bigger focus on defence and cavalry. And is a principality instead of being a kingdom. That's the only three things I can think about that are different from Gondor and Dol Amroth. That's it. And you see here the Serpent Guard charging into the Municipal Guardians. They don't like it. They don't care. Those Serpent Guard are dead. Yeah, I hope you all enjoyed this. I know the quality of these are absolutely
like
appalling,
this, we will
but
smash the enemy.
I'm not the best when it comes to trying to explain things like this. I mean, with the Adine mod it works, but I find with Total War it's kind of waning. I'm kind of losing favour for it. I'm only gonna do the factions. Again, I'm only doing factions that I believe are not, or I know are not, and are not receiving any changes in the future in 2.3, and factions that I know have received recent changes that I really want that people often have trouble playing it with, or want to see me play as a campaign with them. Obviously, Gondor, Dol Amroth were big ones. The Ardennian, Khand, Harad, Brune, they're also really big ones. But Khand is going to be next. In fact, no, Northern Dunedain is going to be next, because I know how to talk about them more than any other nation. And then it's going to be Khand. And I think that will be all of the tips and tricks videos for now, because I believe every other faction in some small way is getting a change. I know most of the Orc nations are getting a change to make them more focused around getting more diversity, because they're made just the same, just with very small changes. But either way, I hope you all enjoyed this again. I've got to think of better outros, and I will see you all next time. Ta-ta for now.